Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Today, we're going to be looking at Bitcoin once again, talking about year-end projections. Now, I'm going to be giving you two kind of projections in this video. One that kind of supplants a possibility of a market cycle top in by the end of the year, so that would be till December of 2021. Another one kind of points to more of a longer term cycle, where market cycle top ends in March of 2022. In a similar video, I talked about the length dates, right? And so this is also going to be playing a part into this projection. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that we don't see the next like leg, so to speak, if you want to call it that, the finish of the run until we get to the past the length of the previous cycle, right? So we have here. Um, 300 and some days, 336 days, and in the next cycle after that, it took 728 days, and it wasn't until we reached the date of the past cycle where we see the next leg of the run happen. Right, we saw this come back down to the 20 week, and then we get lift off. Here is the same thing, 728 days long, right? This in the cycle, the third cycle lasted 1,064 days. Once we reached 728 days, you can argue that this is the next leg for the cycle. So one way to think of it is like this: you got this arc here, and then you have this arc. Uh, this trajectory followed by this trajectory. And so now we're in our current cycle, which is about 1,000 days long, 1,008 days long. If we're going to keep this theory of 1,064 days at the very least, in order for the second leg to start, we're looking at some kind of the major moves starting in September, which gives us September, October, November, and December. It gives us 4 months of Bitcoin needing to rally to get to its market cycle peak. How can we do that? How is that accomplishable? So that means, although Bitcoin is currently up above the 20-week moving average right now, and let's say that continues, I'm saying that the move that can't necessarily really start until 1,064 days at the very least. So we're going to take two examples here. One's going to be from the move from 2019, and the other one's going to be this past move from 2020. So first off, we're going to take 2019. Okay, we have this move here, and we're going to line it up to where it is now. You can move it to here, as just for the sake of simplicity. But for my sake, I'm going to be holding it to here. And so this brings us to about January 10th, 2022. But I also got the tapered end, so you could see it's around December where we see that market cycle peak for Bitcoin. And if we just line it up, it comes actually to about $125,000. And so this is what something how it could look like. We see a decisive move off from the 20-week moving average, and then they continue rally until $124,000, where we hang out there for a bit and then we come back down, and that's it. And that again brings us to about to the end of the year, and that's how much that's what it will kind of look like. This move here would obviously take roughly 4 months for it to complete, and so roughly another 126 days. The problem with this is that that's not a lot of time. I would say for me to feel fully comfortable about that. Regardless, if it does, then that's fine. I sell, and that's pretty much it for me. And we're referencing this from a previous move, so it has happened before. It is possible. The second um, kind of example I'd like to show would be this past move here, back in 2020, where we broke the 20-week moving average and we continued on up. Okay, so what I see here is more of a longer term move, right? And if we lined it up and look at where it stops at around August of 2022. So obviously it's going to take longer, but we could potentially get to a higher high. Now, personally, I don't think necessarily $300,000 is the market cycle peak, but there are a few things to consider. Look at the macro weekly chart, right? We already got to 94, which is the previous peaks. But when we look at the monthly, for example, we didn't quite get to the market, the RSI peak of previous cycles. So I would say whenever the price is at these levels, is we're getting close, right? Personally, $100,000 to $200,000, maybe even 250, might be something to consider. This goes up to $300,000. I'm not too certain if it's going to be that long, or that high. Um, but I mean, if we look at, say, for example, the rallies after the date threshold is met, you can see that these rallies are 12,000%. You could see that this one here is about 2,000%. So how about, and this is based on nothing. Okay, mind you, this is based on nothing. If we measure this and bring it out, this is about a 667% move up. You know, how about a 421% move up? That seems pretty realistic, and that brings us to $200,000. Okay, just as a kind of a way to look at it. So here we are. This is what it could potentially look like for the next 12 months, 6 to 12 months. Okay, if we take option A, we see a pretty decisive move and a continuous rally. And with no test of the 20-week moving average after this, that brings us to about 120 some $1,000 by year's end. Okay. Option B takes a more length approach where we don't really see the actual beginning of the move until the end of the year, right? January 24th, in this case, if we're taking this really to heart. We see that the actual move starts at the end of the year, and it's the beginning of 2022 where we see the incredulous rally that we might experience. So these are kind of what I'm kind of looking at in terms of the next 6 to 12 months. Obviously this is pretty long term projection, and this is all bent on the hope that Bitcoin actually closes above the 20-week moving average this week. If it doesn't, then it changes things. But if it does, then we have the potential to rally hard to get to a market cycle peak by the end of the year, or not. It's a more calculated approach, a longer term approach, um, where you could see that from where we are now to maybe um, October, we don't see much movement, but we're above the 20-week moving average, and it's in October where we see this rally, and then we're off to the races. But that's pretty much it for today, you guys. Don't get too caught up by the numbers. More so the length, I think. More so the length of how it might look. Obviously, they're not going to play out to a T the way these candles look. Okay, and neither does the numbers really matter. What matters, I think, is just time and the indicators. So along this journey, remember to take a look at the monthly RSI. Take a look at the weekly MACD. Um, Take a look at how far above Bitcoin is above its 20-week moving average. Right? We talked about this a lot. Around $38,000, where we saw the percentage difference of Bitcoin's price to the 20-week being really really high, and we noticed that about 110 20%, you see Bitcoin have a hard time holding its 20-week moving average, and it breaks below it. It's what we saw here in 2019. It's what we saw here, in February, where we're incredibly high above the 20-week moving average, and then we couldn't hold it. It's also what we saw here on December 2017. Bitcoin was incredibly high above its 20-week moving average, and therefore when it came down to test it, it couldn't hold. So those are things to take a look at when looking at these charts, and that is just something to keep in mind. Anyway, that's all for today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.